It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for The Last of Us on HBO. On this video, we're going to be taking a look at some pretty awesome behind the scenes photos from filming that they did in downtown Calgary. We're also going to take a look at a quick clip, one of the set locations that they were filming in this past few days. They've actually been pretty busy filming here in downtown Calgary. I was able to visit set a few times last couple of days as well because I live in Calgary. So in this video, I'm gonna show you all of the photos that were captured by fans and photos that I captured myself when I visited set. But other than that, the main thing we're gonna really talk about is a minor story change that's pretty much been confirmed at this point when it comes to the adaptation of the video game storyline, and that having to do with not having one of the main locations being Pittsburgh like the video game, but instead in Kansas City. We're also going to be breaking down some of the photos to figure out what scene they could be filming, and also we're going to talk a little bit about some announcement about casting that's been confirmed. So we're going to look at that. There's something cryptic in the casting which we're going to discuss. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to break this down. Alright, as always, before we jump into this, smash that like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. With that said, let's get into it. But before we do, like I said, not all of these are photos that I captured myself. There's a bunch that I took from various sources online. I'll leave a link to all of those sources in the description so you can go and check them out. But like I said, I did capture a few pictures myself that I'll kind of talk through as well. Let's not waste any more time and get right into this. So obviously, as we've talked about in some of the previous videos, they are filming a scene that involves some sort of a military convoy driving in the middle of the street and some sort of a battle sequence involving this military convoy. There's been tons of pictures of these military Humvees and trucks that I have on screen here. One of them even has the word run in front of it, which matches directly a scene from the video game where a military vehicle, I think it's a Humvee in the video game, but it has the same word in front of the vehicle. I don't exactly remember what part of the game this was, but I'm assuming it has to do with the story that's in the city, most likely the Pittsburgh story, but I could be wrong about that. We also have this particular picture of another military vehicle. There's a bunch of these armed men in the back of it. So they're definitely filming some sort of a battle sequence or some sort of a sequence with a large military convoy. Now, at first, there was a lot of speculation that this was the Fedra because in some of the pictures, there was also Fedra signs, and that's still a possibility. But there's also speculation that specifically these are the hunters who were the group that took over the Fedra base in Pittsburgh in the video game storyline. Again, at this point, we don't necessarily know if that's true or not, but that's definitely a possibility. This is actually one of the pictures I captured myself. I was walking around some of the streets that they're filming in downtown Calgary, and there's this particular parking lot where they park the vehicles if they're not being used. And obviously it's the same Humvees and Jeeps that we saw in the previous picture. If you don't know what this is about, and if you're just randomly walking and see this, I'm sure you'll be confused about what you're looking at. The next picture is related to a scene that they're doing where there's a road that's blocked off and there's like a traffic jam, and the vehicles that are there are dirty, they are rusted, there's vines growing around them, and obviously that's just to give it the apocalyptic look like the video game. But we have this particular one, which is an alleyway that connects to that main road that they had blocked off. So we can see a lot of the same types of vehicles that I mentioned. This is actually the main road. So we have a bus all the way in the background, and there's all of these vehicles lined up. Now, I did do another video on this particular road in one of the previous videos, but when I visited the last time, the vehicles were in different spots, and also there was an RV there. So it looks like they're filming something different or further filming that they're doing. This is another picture of the same area later in the day, so we can see that the cars are again in different spots. So they're definitely moving the cars around, which is extremely interesting. Not sure why they would be doing that, because it's not like we can't tell that it's the same road. The buildings on the side are identical. So I don't know what the idea is of moving the vehicles around, unless this is not an active filming location and it's just somewhere that they park all of these cars that they're not going to be using for filming or something to that effect. Because obviously from the several times that I visited this spot, there was never any cameras there or any extras. No one's really filming anything here, so that could be another reason why these vehicles keep moving around all the time. The white BMW that you see on the left is actually a security vehicle, but this is the same road but from the other direction, so we can actually see the school bus that was all the way in the background in the previous pictures. And we have another angle from the same spot right here, and then here's another one. So this is the opposite end of the same road that we looked at. We can see another picture related to that here that I took. And this is actually a different alleyway that leads into that same road that we were talking about. On the other end, that's the first alleyway that we talked about. And this is the alleyway from the other end. So it looks like they're definitely doing something around this area, but it doesn't appear to be an active filming location. This is the RV that we talked about in one of the previous videos, but when we talked about it in the previous video, the RV was in the middle of the road, but they moved it into a parking lot where it is right now as we speak. With that said, let's talk a little bit about that minor story change that I was talking about. So someone captured this sign that they were setting up in that main road that we were just looking at. One thing I want to say is it looks like at some point they were doing some filming in that area, but look at the sign. It says Kansas City Self-Storage. So obviously a huge hint about the location of where this is supposed to be. Another person actually zoomed into one of those vehicles that we were looking at, and it has a Missouri license plate, further proving that this location is supposed to be Kansas City. Now, one thing I want to talk about here is, what does this mean? Does this mean that they're just gonna add in Kansas City on top of the existing video game storyline? Or does it mean that they're gonna change things slightly and replace one of the main cities that was in the video game, possibly Pittsburgh, and they're gonna replace that with Kansas City? At this point, obviously we don't know. Before this right here, none of us even knew that the scenes that they were filming is potentially for Kansas City because there was nothing there. I guess if we knew that that was a possibility, maybe we would have paid more attention to the license plates, but we didn't, or at least I didn't. So I don't know, but obviously seeing this sign, that's what got a lot of fans interested and curious to see what it was all about, which led to them zooming into the license plates and figuring out that this is supposed to be Kansas City. Again, we don't know if this is an added story on top of the story from the video game, or whether this is a replacement of the Pittsburgh storyline from the video game. But at this point, I am leaning more towards it being a replacement rather than something that they just added on top of what they were doing, adapting the story from the video game. But the next thing we're going to take a look at is this set piece that they are decorating right here. This is supposed to be, I think, like a clothes shop or something, but they turned it into the high-low bar. Now, we did talk about this particular location in some of our previous discussions in previous videos, but at least from what I remember, no one really kind of investigated the decoration and what the newspapers were. But this time around, they did, and what they found is actually extremely interesting. We can see that the newspapers actually say Kansas City on them. So this is another hint that this is supposed to be a set location for the city of Kansas. So everything is lining up at this point, which is pretty awesome. We have another shot right here. So we have a poster of some sort with some graffiti on it. We have seen a lot of this in the video game from the times when Joel and Ellie were just walking in the middle of the city center. So that's definitely an Easter egg, I would say, to a lot of the visuals that we saw in the video game. I do want to show a quick clip of the area that we just looked at, so we can see that this is the road right here. The next thing we're going to look at is this particular building. If we take a look, we can see that there's a blue tarp or blue screen on top of the building on the rooftop, which is probably something that they're going to be changing in post-production. They are probably going to be either putting some vines and some more debris on top of the building, or they're going to make it look like there was an explosion, so they're going to put some damage to show that there was some sort of an explosion. That's what I'm thinking. We also did see a few blue and white trucks like the one you see here around the same area at one point. Now, the fact that there's multiple identical vehicles means that they're going to be using this in a stunt. And the reason why they have multiple is because there's going to be multiple takes. And if we kind of think about the video game, we can see that there was an identical truck used, and it was the scene where Billy and Joel were pushing the truck down from that hill in the video game. So it's a possibility that those vehicles are going to be used for that exact same thing in the TV adaptation, which is pretty cool. Now, with that said, let's talk a little bit about some casting information. We have confirmation that Nelson Lees is added to the cast of The Last of Us. Now, I haven't seen this actor in any other project, so I can't really comment about the casting itself, but Nelson Lees has been in some of the projects that you see, including Supernatural, so that's a big project right there. He'll be playing a new character, and his character is going to be called Josiah. Now, obviously, there's no one called Josiah in the video game, but this guy looks a lot like David. So there's a possibility that they set this Josiah name so that we don't know that he's cast for David, but he's really going to be playing David. Or another way it could go is that they're changing the name David to Josiah in the TV adaptation. But regardless, I think that he's going to be playing the character of David from the video game. And the reason why is because if you take a look at the project season, it looks like he's been involved in some big projects. I don't think he'll be coming in to play a small role if he's been in big projects. And also the fact that he looks like David makes me think that that's probably what he's cast for, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, it's not confirmed, but that's just what I'm speculating at this point based on some of the information that we have. But that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go through in this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.